This conference will now be recorded.
Ready?
Yes.
Okay. I'm calling the Airport Advisory Commission meeting for August the 6th to order. If I can have a roll call, please.
Chair Kunkel,
Present.
Commissioner Spiritu,
Here.
Commissioner Hitchcock, Commissioner Powell,
Here.
Commissioner McDonald.
Here.
You have a quorum.
All right, first thing we need to do is approve the agenda. It's on 2 pages. If you look at that, we are going to have one change to the agenda. We're going to move item number 9 to the top of the non-action items, so Gensler can take care of their business first. So that will be one change to the agenda. If anybody sees any other corrections or additions, let me know, and we'll ask for a motion.
So second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor of accepting the agenda with the one move of Gensler to the top of the non-action items, signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, approval of the minutes from June the 4th. Those minutes were delayed last month because they were pretty much incomplete. And Jenna, when you get the chair over there, I have not looked at the June minutes at all. Did we get those put back together?
Yes, sir.
All right. Let's start with those. So that's the June 4 minutes at the back of your packet. That's a lot more informative than the first batch of minutes that we got. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Good job.
Thanks, Dylan.
Did you put those together, Dylan?
Yes.
Okay.
Both sides.
All right, thank you. All right, any corrections or additions to the June 4 meeting minutes?
Move for approval.
Okay, motion's been made. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Made and seconded. All those in favor of approving the June 4 minutes signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, the July minutes are more extensive than the June minutes. So if you look over the July 2 minutes, I'd appreciate it. Any corrections or additions to the July minutes? I know there's a lot there, but I did have a chance to go through those. Hearing none, Chair would entertain a motion to approve the July 2 minutes.
So moved.
I hear a second.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve the July 2 minutes. All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Okay, we got those out of the way and we're all up to speed on it. So, I see Jennifer's left the room. We're down to having the Gensler group visit with us. Jennifer, we're ready. There we go.
So today we have Rebecca Jonas on with Gensler, and they given us the presentation on the sterile area. I brought some of these so you could kind of look at option 3. What they are proposing is a phased-in option. And just give you a little background, the TSA is not looking at trying to put in an additional lane for us. No, they won't do it for a spike is how they put it,
You want to do it for what?
for a spike in our boardings.
Oh, I thought you said in spite.
That's what I thought you said too.
So, what they are proposing, I've seen the plan, the design. I think it's a great phased-in area so that when we get additional funds, we can continue on with the expansion out towards the back. So, who would like to lead off? Rebecca or Jonas?
Becca can share a screen.
Yeah, if it's possible to get the ability to share my screen, I can do that. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Thanks for having us.
Jennifer, what page do we need to look at?
Option 3.
Okay, I see inventory, functional diagram, inventory. I guess we don't have any page numbers, do we?
You're backwards.
Page 37. Well, you people keep raising, save paper. Well, loggers need money too.
I understand.
All right. Are you guys able to see my screen now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Let me see if I can get this a little, well, I might need to zoom in. Well, thanks for having us all. Just as some background, we were the architecture firm that looked at some different expansion options for the Roswell Airport back in 2019. And through that process, we identified one preferred alternative, kind of the best approach to how the airport could expand. And right now, we've looked at some quick sketches on how the airport could respond to the air races coming in September of 2025. So we have a few options that we've kind of high level looked at with different scales of investment. But we wanted to keep in mind the ideal path to growth for the airport. So I wanted to share that first. So this is the preferred alternative that was identified in that study back in 2019. The kind of darker yellow shows the existing footprint of the current airport. And so the ideal way of expanding the airport is to kind of push out perpendicular, and then you can grow lengthwise with baggage claim to one side and secure gate lounges to the other side. And this really future proofs the growth because you can continue to expand in that linear direction in either side based on what is needed. And it also allows growth even in this kind of pinch point for additional TSA if you need to expand into the courtyard. So with this ideal future in mind, we looked at some expansion options for the immediate future. And as Jennifer said, these are assuming a single TSA security lane, but looking at the new standards for what those lanes require is quite a bit larger than what you currently have. So this option here would be a expansion in the pink area here, an enclosed building expansion about 4,000 square feet in size. and it would allow for a single but more efficient TSA lane. You would enter it from here. You could have some queuing back here. You would get processed through the lane, and then there's enough area to kind of loop back and provide a connection to the existing hold room. The current footprint of the security checkpoint could be given back to the hold room and provide additional hold room area. And with the additional people you're keeping in the hold room during a certain amount of time, we would need to do some code analysis for required restroom counts, but we are fairly certain you would need to amplify your existing restrooms, but you could do that in a temporary situation like a restroom trailer, something like this. There's a number of different options, layouts, but something that has secure access, and then you could access the restroom trailer from the exterior. And then your boarding would happen very similar to it does right now. You would be exiting out this door and accessing the airfield. Arriving passengers would be processed through this space in the new addition here, and then could be passed into the bag claim. This option, we're just putting some kind of rough estimates since this is very high level, but could take about 4 to 6 months for design and 6 to 8 months for construction. And cost range is very hard to estimate right now, but we've seen anything from $550 to over $1,000 per square foot. So that gives you a sense of what that option could be. We have, I think I have showing the different passenger routes. So this is where you have arriving passengers coming in here. You could provide some queuing for the security lane here before being processed through. And then there's even ability, if this is constructed to this current size, is you could actually amplify this path with some additional seating. And then there's additional seating that could be in this area 9. So you could add a significant number of seats to the secure hold room area. And then you have your departing passengers leaving in that same route.
A couple items to note on this option: the east-west and planned footprint is really dictated by that future expansion that Becca showed first. So in the future, should the additional build out occur, this can accommodate 2 screening devices. So that right side of the plan, yeah, there we go. So that would be kind of the growth opportunity for the checkpoint with the big building expansion above this. And then we do want to highlight, with September of next year as the target, I think the scope of this project will probably be outside of that window. So these next options show alternative approaches or interim approaches, depending on your direction.
All right, I think I'll touch on, we have 2 other options to look at, and then we can circle back with any questions or clarifications. So option B is using something called a sprung structure. So it's a more temporary solution, but these things can have a pretty decent lifespan. So they're these kind of structures that I'm sure everyone's seen in different applications, but we've seen them at airports in a number of different settings. This one right here is actually in Bishop, California, and they use it for their TSA screening and their secure hold room, and they have restrooms inside. And they come in a number of different modular sizes, so it could respond to really what you want to increase your hold room capacity to be. And so for this solution, we would consider bringing arriving passengers in as far over as possible, and then trying to dedicate some additional area to your existing security screening lane. And we think with some real intentional moves, you could increase the efficiency and throughput of the security lane without major changes. So helping the security become a little bit more efficient, and then you're using your existing hold room with some type of secure connection to this sprung structure. And this could be, again, a variety of sizes and layouts depending on if you want it to fit here or if you're willing to demolish some of these half walls. There's a lot of different opportunities. And then again, back to the supplemented restrooms, that could be done with trailers, or you could look at doing them inside the sprung structure itself. If you were to do something a little bit larger, it's going to have a little bit more impact on your site area. But this could be something that could stick around for a number of years and help you transition to future growth. And so if you have a secure connection from your existing hold room into this new hold room, you could have restrooms included inside it, and then you're boarding passengers from out here to the airfield. And then arriving passengers would follow a very similar path that they do today. And then the last option is the most economical, really looking at like a one event spike that you're trying to service. And that's really using your existing exterior space. So it would be a similar approach to the interior where you're bringing arriving passengers in as far over, looking for some efficiencies and increased throughput to the security lane, having the existing hold room as is, but then you'd be investing in a type of secure perimeter fence that would create a kind of outdoor courtyard that would be considered secure hold room space. And this would be supplemented with restrooms and potentially also a food truck or concessions of some kind. Ideally, you've got some kind of overhead shade as well. These two photos right here are from the Austin airport, and this is exactly that. It's secure outdoor hold room space serviced by a concessions truck. Actually can change out which vendor they bring in, and they have different solutions for shade and protection. So if it's something that's really focused on this one event and needs to have maximum capacity at the most economical price, this could actually be a pretty pleasant solution for those that are waiting in the secure hold room. So those are the three sketches, high level, that we were helping to generate. We're happy to answer any questions or dig into any further clarifications.
So Rebecca, the least expensive option, this is likely, the single event is gonna take place likely during September. And our temperatures have moderated some from obviously July and August, but we can still have 90+ degrees in September. And obviously shade would be something that's important. I'm not sure we'd have many people who'd want to put up with that, to tell you the truth.
I think we would definitely.
What's anybody else's thoughts?
Oh, no.
I know it's inexpensive, but
In Austin in September, it's not that much cooler. It's a heck of a lot more humid. So it does work there for them. They get by with it.
Very common practice in the islands and Western territories too. It's very nice. And if it.
It's very common in Central Africa too. But,
Southern California.
Yeah, Palm Springs has a very open airport.
I mean, it's possible to do.
Holding
Yeah.
areas.
I mean, you put some swamp coolers in there and things like that, blow cool air, not too bad.
It's also heat in the shade, so it's 90 now.
Yeah. Keep the air moving. I think it'd be okay. I don't know.
so this is probably, since, Mr. Mayor, since we've got some options that Gensler has provided us, the committee that I had suggested that we put together, it seems to me like this is an ideal opportunity for folks that are knowledgeable of what's going on to get together on that committee and discuss these options. We can certainly discuss them here, but I think there needs to be maybe more time invested in it than what we can invest in it right here. And so that would be my thoughts, that this group, that I don't know whether you've got anything put together yet or not, but we sure need to move forward on that. So does anybody else have any questions of Gensler right now? I guess I'm concerned, the number 2 option that you gave us up there. Yeah, that one right there. If we're gonna do something with that, that would make it somewhat more difficult to utilize construction for something bigger than that, working around that option. At least that's what I would see, because you're gonna have that as more of a not permanent, but that would be much more permanent than option number 3. And it would seem to me that would be more difficult to work around than if we had an option that was actually attached to the building.
Yeah, there's a lot of different variables with these, and if you have a time frame for your other future growth outside of this one event, then we could consider that growth when we look at the actual dimensions and the site location and ensure there's enough buffer for actual construction. The other thing with these structures is that they can be relocated and reused. So if it's something that the airport or the Roswell itself invests in, it could be something that could be reused for a different purpose in the future. We don't really know how much these cost, and we've heard that there are pretty significant lead times for them right now, but if this is something you're interested in, we could start looking into that.
What kind of lead times?
You know, we'd have to reach out to the manufacturers to get some specifics, but we've heard it's pretty significant, but that's just kind of what we're hearing from different areas. It might depend on the region.
Historically, the selling point of the building is its increased construction window, meaning it's quite a bit shorter than traditional construction. But we don't want to guarantee a timeline without reaching out. There's usually 2 or 3 manufacturers that fabricate this type of construction. Sprung is one of those manufacturers.
What other comments do we have from commissioners on this presentation?
I would think it would just come down to budget. What's available, where can we go with it?
Well, and I don't think we can make that decision.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That decision, you kind of have to know how much you can work with before you can make it.
Mike?
Has the city committed the rub hanger that we own, city owns? Has that already been committed?
Is that committed?
I mean, we have a structure.
Yeah, that would be perfect.
It was removed from the EDA grant at this time. Apparently, there is an interest in it with the air race, so it's on the table with them until we hear from them.
I'm sorry, an interest from who?
Air race. Rah-rah. Commissioner
Sound
Powell,
Greek.
you got any comments? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I don't know if that's entirely correct, because we've talked about other facilities already instead, not at that rub hanger. Bobby, do you call that same context?
You're talking specifically some of the other hangers on the beam?
We mentioned in our proposal about having that, like a better fabric facility, but that's not something that Raw is really considering at this point, right? Because we're considering the hangers.
Actually, we could work with another tenant from the airfield. They could use it 48 weeks out of the year. And then we could lease space from them for the 4 weeks. That's an option, but make better utilization out of it. There's also to consider when we actually, through Matt Rogers, got some folks, putting a flooring in it, an apron, and the construction costs are significant for them to erect it. There's something got them to erect it.
So it's still, I go back to what I said just a couple minutes ago. It still looks to me like what we need to have with what Gensler has put together for us is we need to have a group of the mayor's desire to get together with Gensler, with RAH staff, and start walking through these and ask questions, have Gensler get us answers, and come up with a couple of different solutions that can be presented either initially here, but certainly to the city council, and move something forward. Because if we don't start, as I previously said, if we don't start now, which was now 30 days ago, we're already 18 to 24 months behind. So we may be 19 to 25 months behind. John?
I wonder if Rebecca wouldn't mind reaching out to that vendor to see what the lead time really is. Because if they can't have it by July of next year, we need to look at something else.
Yeah, we can start having those conversations. We'll reach out.
I think just some basic, Rebecca, just some basic timelines on availability, and then some information from a vendor or a couple vendors, not just on availability, but what's the setup time.
Sure thing.
So we've got some timelines that we can start working with, and that may be as important as cost at this point is timelines. Because based on what you've presented, these options are significantly less time consuming, and both architecturally and engineering wise, to get something in place potentially by the time we want to do this next September. Where before we were looking at 18 months if we had a plan to even get anything built. So if you can start with just some basic information on costs, on availability, and setup times, I think that would be of assistance to us. Can any of the commissioners think of anything else we want them to do or ask them to do right now? Okay, those three things. And then, Mr. Mayor, do we need to have a get together after this meeting and start identifying?
We need to identify some people who'd be good to.
Okay, we can do that.
Through here and look at that.
We can do that after the meeting. Okay, very good. Any other questions or comments to Gensler? Thank you for the time that you've taken to put this together. That gives us a lot better options than what we had a month ago that are obviously more cost effective.
Sure thing. We're happy to help, and we'll start reaching out to some manufacturers and let you know what we find.
All right. Thank you a bunch.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Yep, just work that stuff back through airport staff, please.
Will do.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right. With Gensler's presentation, let's go back to item number 6 then, Jennifer, if you're ready to update us.
Okay, so our passenger boardings for July 2024 are 4871 over July of 23 of 3718. Our airport operations are at 1500 for July over 1422 of July of 23. And the aircraft parking has basically remained about the same. We have 221 aircraft July 24. So it's looking about, it's kind of staying steady on that one from last year. The revenue and expense We have for revenue, $305,136 for July. Our expenses, because of capital outlay projects, are $710,210. So we're in the negative of $405,074. The project list, give you just a quick update. So the BLM taxiway and the BLM pit are being opened at 2 o'clock today. So hopefully we will have some bidders on that. The apron ramp, which is a FAA grant, is going to be rebid. Master plan is continuing. The sweeper, funds are on city council's agenda for Thursday night. The PO was carried over without any funds, so there's a budget adjustment for that. The airport airfield lighting with ADB, he did show up yesterday, so he's here for another 2 weeks this month. They have been finding kind of the same thing we find as they keep going. Burned out wire, they've been replacing all that. So, and they have put some LEDs in. We have some taxiways that are LED now, so hopefully I'll get a better report that they're going to start finding anything better. The vault, we hope to have bids going out October-ish, and to rebuild our electric vault so we can tie all that together. We have the strategic plan. I believe we are meeting on August the 21st with Mead and Hunt to go over goals. And let's see. And then we have for the RAH improvements, the geotech has been completed on the triangle. We haven't received the results back as of yet. But that is kind of where we stand on that. The EDA grant, I'll just hop over to it. We did have a client who was interested in it, and we were moving forward, but because it could be better used for the air show, the air race, we held off on that. So that's where we are with that.
Jennifer, remind me, how much is that EDA grant?
The EDA grant is 2.78.
Okay. But that's also contingent on the city coming up with a bunch of money, is it not?
No, it's 100% reimbursement.
Okay.
That was the one for hangar 84, whatever. What?
Yes, sir. Any other questions? Okay, if not, I'll go into the next one. The airport engineering RFP is going to council for a multi-source contract. So we should hopefully get that approved on Thursday night, and then they'll submit their master service agreements to the city for signature. The air service development and consulting with Mr. Foss. I have been talking with him. We are trying to schedule a time for him to come down and meet with everyone and kind of get a feel for where we want him to go. But he has been involved in talking with us about the expansion for the terminal. So we've already started including him on those conversations.
Are you talking about at an AAC meeting or a separate meeting where other staff members or elected officials can be there?
We could do the AAC. He's right here. He's going to be here probably a few days.
Okay.
I've updated you on the strategic plan. A meeting that will be here on the 21st. And that's, unless you have questions, that's what I have going on.
Okay, item number 12.
Are we gonna skip 11? Is there any update?
Oh. So Mike, do you want to update us or you want Bobby to update us?
So, Fred Telling, the chairman and CEO of RARA, was here the 18th of July and spoke at our EDC meeting. Then the mayor, myself, city manager, Bobby, Fred flew up to Santa Fe and met with cabinet secretaries and the governor seeking some additional funding. So we're hopeful that we'll see some of that help us get the surfaces paved and done as needed. Nothing yet, but we're still working on that. They are requesting a larger tax request for sponsorship, and that's due, I think, this week, next week. So we're working on that as well. We've assisted with that application process. Things seem to be transitioning okay at this point. There's going to be next week. There'll be a couple folks down from Reno. Tony Lagatata, who's the new president, he is overseeing the transition, and then also with him is, Tank's. What's Tank's real name? Chris. He'll be down, and he's the COO, and he'll be looking at operations on the airfield. And then the next week is basically EMS and fire. Those folks, they'll be down here working with Mike Matthews and Karen Sanders and that team. So we will see teams of folks come down through the end of the year. I'm sure into next year, but at least the end of the year, working towards that. The biggest problem they have, if you will, is they have this air show in October. And so it's kind of taken a lot of energy for the final air show. We are sending a team of people to the air races to work with their transition team and learn in different areas with them through the air show. So we'll have folks up there for a few days. But things are moving, for me, slow, but they're moving. So I think we're on the right track. I spoke with the chairman this morning. I talked with Terry Matter yesterday. I've talked with the folks from Reno every day, and they are still convinced they're in the right location. So there is a MOU that's been drafted. It's still in draft form, being circulated through the city now, and RARA also looked at it. So that'll tie up hopefully some loose ends, and they're working towards some other things when they're here to solidify some other agreements. We did have a meeting that Councilor Bob Corn set up on Saturday morning. The mayor was at, and it was in the paper even, but we met with one of the landowners. It was very agreeable to the Brown Brothers family, who has pretty much most of the land there under the race course, and they're very supportive. We have one other family we need to visit with, but that perspective looks good. Xcel Energy has donated some power poles. We have solar on site at the Air Center. They're for 50-foot long pylons, and they're all really straight. So I'm sure the pilots like that. And I think next steps in that regard is getting ready for the pylon recertification school in May. And that means they've got to get some accreditation work approved by the FAA before they can set up the pylons and all that stuff. So that's going to be done within the next couple of weeks. They hope they'll get that moving with meetings with the FAA. Did I miss anything, Bobby?
I think you did an excellent job.
Okay. Any questions?
Yes.
Yes. John.
And I think it needs to be Jennifer. What's your plan for getting 1230 cleared off before May? Give us a.
You will start seeing them move this week.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Commissioner Spiritu? Mike, thank you for your update. Appreciate it. All right, let's go to item number 12, Southeast Water Line update. Is city engineer going to do that, or?
I'm gonna do it, Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Can I have my slide up, please? Good one. Okay. I'll start talking. You all more or less know the southeast corners where the development's supposed to go with all the utilities. So I'm gonna give you an update on the water line, and I'm gonna give you an update on the rest of the utilities. in case you're unaware of what's going on. So the southeast water line will be awarded at council Thursday. We actually had 5 bidders. We had 5 bidders. We haven't seen 5 bidders in quite a while. The bid was really good. It was $1.3 million in change, which is way under the engineer's estimate. Part of it is White Cloud Construction. You might be familiar with the name. They did phase 1 of the water line. They also did the Mystic force main, this station and force main. So they're very familiar with this area. They're also a small company, family company, so their overhead is really low. The quality of work is good. So they'll be awarded Thursday. The price of PVC came down for that project. So I don't know how long that will hold. So that was part of it with the $1.3 million. Now it's awarded on Thursday. Friday they get their letter. Will then be 14 weeks waiting on valves. So that's the lead time on valves. So we're hoping for completion May 1st.
Are they mega lug valves?
Yes.
How big?
14-inch.
Well, I might know somebody who has 10 of them.
I think we needed 40.
Okay, well.
Yeah, get started, but anyway, that's the story on the water line. We're working off the grant that was given to the county, and there was $1.9 million left. We're taking 1.3. There's some other stuff that's being paid, but to catch up on the utilities, we already did the kickoff meeting for the force main for the sewer that would go along with it. So the sewer would run parallel, 10 feet away to meet EPA standards. Now you're gonna have to picture that when we're running the water line and the sewer line, we're gonna pump the sewage 3 miles and get it outside the fence. So it's gonna be a force main that's 3 miles long. The one from Mystic is 1 mile. So just getting to the Mystic area is 2 miles, 12,000 feet. And then we have another 5,000 feet on top of that. So we're pumping 17,000 miles. The design volume is for 600 employees. So there's a lot that they'll be able to handle. The plan is we already did the kickoff. We're crashing that design so we can advertise in January. Hopefully we'll have money with the second grant that the county has. So that's your water, that's your sewer. With the water line, Plateau and Sparklight are furnishing the conduit for fiber, and our contractor is putting that in. So we'll have conduit to that area, but they will not run any wire to their customers. Excel doesn't even want to talk to us until there's a customer. CenturyLink doesn't want to talk to us until there's a customer. We have talked to natural gas to get gas. Now the gas company wants to run on the east side of the perimeter fence, on the west side of the perimeter road, and just come down and then just stop right there, or they would turn west. But they're willing to do that at a price of about $100,000 and change, which we would also tap one of those grants to do that. Now, the gas company is owned by companies in Canada. Today, yeah. So
Soon to change.
Tomorrow?
So the agreement is over there. The quotes and everything over there. We haven't heard back. We have reached out, but we're waiting on that corporate to get back to us, but then we would start working with gas company and get the gas over there. So that's where we're at. And I stand for any questions on the utilities.
Any questions of the city engineer? Thank you for your update.
Yes, sir.
Good job. All right, let's go to Mac. I guess you're up. Building 1081 update. Where do we stand?
Yes, thank you, sir. For building 1081, it was originally constructed in 1954 with 2 additions and is roughly 76,000 square feet. The roof and structure are in good shape with no known issues, but there are several known life safety, health issues. So we're in the process of getting quotes for a building systems analysis or a feasibility study to help us understand better the scope of the deferred maintenance. And I think that'll help Air Center staff potentially find some funding sources for that building or better understand some of the issues that face potential lessees. So, stand for any questions.
Remind everybody which building this is.
1081.
Yeah.
It's the one in front of the Dean Baldwin hangar.
So this is the multi-story, 2-story office building that also has storage at the back of it. That hasn't been used for 15 years. Okay.
It'll make it for a while.
All right, any questions of Mac on that building? Basically, we're still looking at trying to gather info on it. And we've been working on that for at least 30 days. Do we have a completion time on gathering info on it so we know what we've got and what we have to do?
Well, I should have some quotes this week for the feasibility study for building systems.
So by our next meeting, will we have some data available?
Yeah.
Okay. Insurance wind claim, Mac. This year's.
So
insurance
for
claim.
the 2024 wind claim, on building 1083, the Dean Baldwin hangar, as it stands now, we're roughly 60% complete. And we're in agreement with the New Mexico Self-Insured Fund to direct pay the contractor for a total cost of $219,000 minus our deductible. There's roughly 10% of the roof that has bad roofing material and has caused some issues. We've patched it as best we can. We're prioritizing the replacement of that material, and we'll have that done by the end of the month. The remaining 30% left is mostly just the drip edge material, and that portion of the roof is secured and it's not causing any known leaks right now. So it's not as high as a priority, but we're in good shape.
I guess I don't quite understand. That roof's only been on there 2.5 or 3 years. I understand it not being.
It's been on there for about 8 years, 6 or 8.
Okay, I thought it was newer than that.
I think it was installed in 2017, 2018.
Was there a warranty at the time?
There still is. It's still under warranty. The warranty date is, I think, July 2019.
Warranty date expired?
No, when it was active, it expires in 2029.
Oh, okay. So when you say the materials were bad,
It was.
That's a rubber membrane roof, is it not?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is a rubber membrane roof. So this is where the wind did the most damage. It's right at the point where the wind got under it and started peeling it off.
So the roofing material probably wasn't bad, but because of what the wind did to it, it's not, it won't serve the purpose that it needs to.
Correct.
So the material itself will have to be replaced. Okay. And then from the standpoint of holding the roofing down on top of the roof, any future projects that we have, what have we learned? What are we going to do to make sure that doesn't happen again?
Well, I think one of the things we've learned from this instance is staying on top of our warranties and tracking those as best we can. And when we see an issue with a roof or a small leak, getting repairs done quickly so that it doesn't become a bigger issue.
And I would think most of the tenants would make us aware of those kind of issues, usually the day after they see water dripping through the roof. But also, I guess my real question is, how do you keep the roof on top of the building? And apparently the mechanism, the gluing mechanism that was used on that building wasn't satisfactory considering the kind of wind event that we had. So is that something that the city needs to take into consideration on future re-roofing jobs that are that high in the air of that kind of building?
I don't think the issue is with the adhesive itself or using mechanical fasteners. I think they're both acceptable systems. I don't know that one is better than the other. There are a variety of different ways of securing roofs, and you can do a lot of things to get really high wind speed ratings, but it's always a balancing act when it comes to cost. And I think we had a good roofing system on that building that held up pretty well. It's just there were some small issues with it that caused it to cause a much bigger issue. Yeah. And if we would have corrected those issues a little bit sooner, we wouldn't have the extent of the damage.
Okay.
If it requires an inspection after a wind event to see if it's starting to fail.
Sure.
So who's gonna have a team to do that?
Who would?
Yeah, is that the roofer that comes, do we have a roofer come inspect it, or do we have to send people to inspect it after a wind event? We better get some trained.
Makes sense.
A question.
Go ahead, John.
Mr. Rogers, what's the maximum wind that our insurance policy covers for?
I don't know that there is a limit in our insurance policy for wind. There is a limit on our warranty, and that's why this isn't a warranty claim. And so the limit of our warranty was 55 miles an hour, and the wind at these two events exceeded 55 miles an hour.
So our warranty isn't good after 55 miles an hour.
Correct.
So, but we can get a warranty as long as we're willing to pay to get a higher wind speed, can we not?
Yeah,
Well,
we can.
So
55 is pretty ordinary around here.
So that should be something
That's just a
that
breeze.
that y'all look at, because 55 mile an hour wind is is fairly common. Now, I know it boils down to how much money does the city have to pay for the warranty? I understand that. But when you look at the cost to the taxpayer after that thing peeled up and what comes out of the city's pocket, it may be worthwhile to get a better warranty on it. I don't know. It's got to be a cost-effective analysis. Wow. Cost-benefit analysis. But we sure had, over the last, Jenna, how many years? 3 years? Three wind events that have caused problems out here that have caused the city a lot of problems just in obtaining insurance. Any other comments or questions on
So if we
that?
have a wind event, damages a roof, it goes on the insurance, or does it, if it's over 55 miles an hour, the insurance pays for it? Is that what I'm
I think it depends on
It depends
on the warranty and everything.
The specific building. If we have a wind event that damages a roof, the first thing we should do is file a property damage claim with our insurance. And then if there is an opportunity to file a warranty claim, we should do that as well.
Don't you want to look at the warranty first before filing a claim? Because every time you file a claim, whether it's payable or not, it's still a mark on you, isn't it?
Sure, and I would suggest that it's not just the city that pays that higher premiums. Because who shares, now the tenants?
Tenants pay.
Yeah.
Sometimes we don't bill them, but when we do what we're supposed to do, we're supposed to bill them.
Yeah, because every time we
we're
make a
still
claim, whether it's
discussing some of those.
valid or not, you're still up yet.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you look what's about to happen with the fires in Rios. Oh, my gosh.
So you can't, for us to say that any building we put out here ought to have at least 80-mile-an-hour winds. I mean, that's just reality.
Yeah, 80 is still like,
This may be a silly question, but does it make any difference the height of the building? So if we've got Dean Baldwin, which is twice as high as another building, then the insurance that we get on that may need to have a higher wind rating than a shorter building. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think that's good reasoning. I mean, I think the wind uplift, just in my experience, seems to be a lot greater with taller structures.
Okay.
And, that roof it's about 80 feet in the air.
It's 80 or 90 feet tall, yeah.
And
wind's a lot stronger.
The wind does some crazy things up and around that building.
I bet. It's a big, yeah.
Okay, any other questions of Mr. Rogers?
So, just for everybody's knowledge, I think the Roswell Airport has more claim damage against the municipal league's insurance than any other
Community.
community. I mean, this is the largest set of structures we have almost anywhere in the.
Yeah, everything in Albuquerque is probably brand new or not very old.
Okay, let's look at the, Jenna, let's start with item number 15, please.
Okay, so I was hoping to report that this would be closed, but Allen Roofing is completing the very last 5% of this roof as we speak. So they've been up there this week. So that's for Building 735, the New Mexico DOT, and then that claim will be in completion.
Okay, and that's not going to impact what the city gets reimbursed to handle this.
No. So that's already done.
All right.
Item 16 is the wind event from 2023. WWRC's been awarded the contract from New Mexico Self-Insured Fund. So in the last year, we've learned that utilizing direct pay from the insurance company versus us trying to run it through the city's budget is more expedient. So WRC was on site today, reevaluating with their subcontractors at Hangar 84. They anticipate beginning work in September on Hangar 84. And then I believe they were out to see Max as well at Dean Baldwin to measure the vents on top of the roof that were damaged during that wind event as well. And so they're getting us on the schedule, and I anticipate those being done by the end of the calendar year.
So the direct pay process, is that something that we need to just make the standard for how we operate?
I think that's been better for both Mac and myself to do that process, because the insurance company then can get it done quicker. We eliminate a layer of a third party, so we're now down to an adjuster, our contractor, and the insurance company versus a third party in there trying to negotiate on everyone's behalf.
And we're sure that between the insurance company and the contractor, that will all get taken care of the way it needs to for our building.
They keep both Mac or I as the project manager on the job. So even as it's running through the insurance company, paying them directly, they're in full communication with Mac or myself about releasing payments and how they're going to proceed with the contractor based on us letting them know how they're doing, how far we are along.
So the city is still the safeguard?
Yes.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, Mr. Chair, so at the end of that, the insurance is gonna still have to go back and say, yes, this roof is good to go.
Yep.
And cover it again. So, yeah, you've got safeguards in place when you do that process.
As long as the city has safeguards in place to ensure that somebody's monitoring between the contractor and the insurance company.
But again, the insurance company, when the project's done, they're gonna come inspect
They
it.
have to redo, yeah.
And then they have to say, yeah, this is
Reinsure.
good to go for the
Right.
insurance in the future.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Reference the wind claims. So the last 5% on the hail claim for 2021, we expect that by the end of August.
I expect it to just be an item where I get to say we're done.
Okay. All right, vacant properties, Jenna, item number 17.
I actually have handed this off to Michelle, so
Okay.
she's been utilizing and working on it. I'll be here with her.
All right. Michelle, go ahead.
You want to just report on what you know?
Okay, so I do know we have building 100 and 117 as of Ascent had vacated at the end of July. I am sending off a lease for 117 so that Aircel can take over that for a year.
So now you're sending off a lease. Does that mean that?
It's
you-
kind of like a quote, I should have said.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you and Airsail haven't agreed to a
No.
lease yet?
No.
Okay.
I'm working on that so we can get that leased out once it gets approved.
And that's for a year?
Yes. Yes.
That's all they want it for? Is that what they've talked about?
Yes, they're planning on utilizing it to be able to process the fire parts that are in building 115 for their insurance.
Okay.
117. Carrie Hunter, so building.
And city's not gonna have to do anything to that building to get it ready for them to lease?
We have one piece of metal that was damaged by a piece of equipment, ground equipment hitting it. So we'll have that repaired, but the tenant will be taking care of the former tenant will be taking care of that repair, and a couple of drywall patches that need to be done from equipment that was screwed into the wall that will then also need to be taken off. So there's some expenses tied to the building, but it's pretty readily move in.
Okay. All right.
Wasn't that the building that somebody broke into and took some cars and drove a truck over the gate and all that stuff?
That's Charlie Murphy's building, and actually she'll report on that lease on her summary.
Okay, any other questions? All right, so those are just 2 vacant properties. Do we have?
We have additionally 2 bunkers that are open still. One of them is ATF rateable, the other one is not. It will just be able to be used for personal storage or storage of non-ATF items, if you will. Building 1231, which is out by the firing range next to Trans-Aero, is still available. 611 has been rented by FEMA. They plan to be here for at least 3 months. At least we've got 3 months rent firm on it. They've really done a great job working with Michelle and myself. If you try to get in the building, you'll have to go through a pat down to get in there. So they have it pretty locked down. It's cost us a little bit, but the return on the rent far exceeds the expenses it cost us to get them up in there.
I thought they were going to rent that for a year.
They are on a 3-month firm with a 1-year option to be in there, but they are month to month after 3 months.
And that's at $9 a foot.
Yes.
All right.
We have 732, 33, and 34 open as well. Those are the little cookie cutter buildings that are next to the DOT building, which we have a possible tenant for that we'll be working with for the 732. And you don't have anything new going on. We did have a prospective tenant with Building 100. Once we spoke to them about the price, they declined to move forward without really much negotiation. They weren't very interested after we talked to them. Building 100 is the building that Ascent just vacated next to the water tower.
The white building out there, out in the middle of the park.
Yeah. It's completely renovated on the inside, so we're offering it at $450 a square foot, and that wasn't doable for this tenant.
Okay. All right, any other questions on vacant properties?
Yeah, it's good. It's a good building at 450. It's pretty high.
Okay, item number 18.
Okay, I have been working at the request of Ed Hildebrand, Councilor Hildebrand, to start figuring out a way to market our properties out here on a different level than what we've been doing over the last couple of years. Obviously, EDC is instrumental in that partnership with us and helping us with that. And I want to thank you all for that. You do a really great job with taking our properties out and trying to get our land sold, land filled in, yes, build suit or whatever we're doing. So I really, really appreciate that. I have been talking to a gentleman in Texas. I spent a little bit of time with him last week. We'd like to meet again and discuss a little bit further, understanding how our lease rates affect our development and our development affects our lease rates. He had some interesting information to share about that, and I think that's a good education for me to continue on. I don't feel like I have enough intel on that yet to really share, but he is a CCIM, a certified commercial investment manager versus just a commercial agent. So he's been and specializes in airports. So let me state that as well. So he owns a company called Airspace out of Texas, and so he's kind of within our region, understands our market, and kind of has been sharing how you market the airport properties in different realms. So I've spoken to Bobby as well, and I know I'll continue to work with Ms. Thompson regarding marrying those two things together as we move forward and put a better marketing plan together here.
Is there a benefit, which you may not know right now, with this person and with EDC for collaboration?
Absolutely. I think it's always good for us to collaborate with them when we're working to bring businesses in.
Of course, what he's going to want to do is get a contract with the city, and he wants to get a percentage of what he can lease that stuff for. That's how they operate.
Well, this gentleman actually doesn't operate necessarily with our type of our type of contract that I'm talking to him about, he really is just offering an education, which I
Really?
appreciate right now, that he's really
Okay.
working to just help me to understand a little bit more about global versus regional versus, and then also airport property versus just standard commercial property.
Is there any benefit to the city getting him out here for a couple of days and having him actually put hands on some stuff?
Sure, I've invited him to actually give a presentation at the Airport Advisory Commission, and I anticipate he'll do that next month.
Okay.
But he wanted to have a further conversation with me. Our last conversation was Friday afternoon, so
Where's he actually from?
Texas,
Okay.
our side of Texas, so,
Okay.
yeah.
And
Yeah, I say I don't know, I can't remember the city specific.
I'm saying he's from
No, but that's true. That's kind
no,
of true.
Canada's bigger,
That's true.
although the Texans won't say that. Any other questions then? Jenna, thanks for reaching out to get some good information on this. That'll ultimately help the city, no question about that. Okay, Michelle, we're back to our lease summary report.
Okay,
Can we make that big enough so we can see it? Never mind.
It's in your packet.
All right.
Shocking. It's in your packet.
Mr.
It's in
Woods,
your packet.
Oh, it is? Oh, wow.
okay, Mr. Woods has signed his lease. It's been sent up for city management to sign. Charles Murphy, he's been sent his new lease, but it was also broken into on 7/30, resulting in significant theft items. And so he may be reconsidering his lease, his renewal.
Didn't he have a fence around that building?
Yeah,
They got a truck and drove over.
broken, yeah.
They actually drove up to it, broke a back door, and unloaded half of the contents of this building.
Did security get the guy's badge number? Who did it?
No cameras over there. That's a landside property, and the tenant did not have electricity, therefore there are no cameras.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, Aircel, we're still working on, they're working on an appraisal. And then Daniels,
Okay, before we get off of that, okay, what they're getting is they're getting an appraisal that will provide them information for a lease. And has the city acknowledged that they're paying for this, and we're gonna take that into consideration? Or how are we gonna do that?
85 and 92 for air sale. No, at this point, we just put that on. When we met to negotiate with them, they asked if they could go ahead and do an appraisal so that we could discuss the value of the building.
Well, if they pay for an appraisal, then the city has to make a decision. Are we gonna accept the appraisal that Air Sales paying for? And part of that depends on who's doing it and the quality of the documentation. So I don't know, I don't remember that the Air Center has ever engaged in a lease negotiation in this manner. Maybe they have, but I'm not aware of it.
This is the first one I've dealt with that they've requested to appraise the building, other than Dean Baldwin.
Okay, so the last thing, and it wasn't for lease, but it was for the sale of Ergon that the previous administration pushed for.
Sale of land.
And so that appraisal that was done for the sale was faulty. And it was proven to be faulty. And a second appraisal was done. And the second appraisal took into consideration the items that the first appraiser did not. And so that appraisal for the sale of the land was higher. And then the administration and the city council chose to use the first appraisal because the buyer said, I'm not going to pay the second appraisal price. And so that's how that property was sold. So I just want to make sure that air sale and legal are together on what's going to go on with this document that air sale's paying for to provide. And I understand what they're trying to do. If the appraisal for lease purposes indicates that their rent should be lower, that's what they're trying to do. If their rent should be lower, then that's what they're going to try to do. But there has to be, my opinion, a quality control on the document that's provided. And so that's something that the city staff needs to give some consideration to. Any other comments?
Did it surprise you it happened that way?
It did. I thought that was.
Well, I'm not surprised me too, but
I thought it was a bad deal for the taxpayer.
It was.
Well, you could get an appraisal too, just to make sure that their appraisal is.
Well, you could, but I'm just saying, everybody needs to go into this recognizing what has happened at this air center before with knowledge of that so that we can work through it.
Should have sold
I'm
any
up
of
to this,
that.
the appraisal will come in and we get up front.
No, but what if it comes in higher, then you can raise it, right?
Well, it's still a negotiation. It's still a negotiation.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we get another one.
Yeah, I know. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. Go ahead, please.
Okay, yeah, let's off it. So Daniels, I sent his renewal for approval, and I'm still waiting for him to respond. And then AVEX, working on the renewal. And then Mr. Parker sent his as well, and I'm still waiting for his approval on his new.
So on all of those that are due in September, we're just waiting on signatures.
Signatures. I'm still working on AVEX's.
So we don't, for AVEX, we don't have an agreed to lease.
Correct. I'm working on that one.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
Okay, and then, of course, the other ones aren't up until October, so I'll be working on those as well.
And just so I understand, what is the criteria that on leases that the AAC is to review now, recognizing a new threshold?
You know, anything over $20,000 annually will go through the AAC. Additionally, if it's a lease that is a multiple year, more than 1 year.
Okay. Otherwise, it can be signed off on between city staff and the city attorney. Okay.
Yeah, the short answer, if you look at the enabling resolution that creates this body, they're supposed to hear anything that goes to legal before legal regarding the airport is a vet for that. And so if it doesn't have to go to legal, it wouldn't go to vets, which is why the administrative leases don't come here.
Okay. All right, any other questions then on upcoming leases or where we are on leases?
I did have a question, Mr. Chair. So on the expiration, there's 12 listed as total, and I look down below and there's 8. So there's another 4 somewhere.
Okay, so, New Mexico DOT, it has 3.
Oh, okay.
Multi-personal councils.
I got you. Okay.
And then Airsail and Red Mountain Arsenal both have 2.
Thank you.
I've also got a question now that I look at that expired leases. Red Mountain Arsenal, are we current?
We're still in arrears on insurance, and the city attorney is working on that with Michelle.
So until we get arrears cleared up, they can't sign it anyway, can they?
But they can, we'll raise the rent on them, sure. There's a separate cause of action for that.
Okay. All right, those are my questions. Any additional questions of Michelle? All right.
Mr. Chairman, just a point of information on Red Mountain Arsenal. Since the city has invested so much time and effort in yourself as well. Speak with those folks. They appears are on the edge of executing a quite lucrative contract. So the help with Senator Lujan's office out of DC was a great benefit to them moving that blockage forward. So looks like they're going to be in a lot better financial position in the future. It appears.
Good. Yeah, they just got to get their stuff signed and then find bodies to go make bullets.
Pay the bills.
Yeah.
Follow the rules.
Okay, I think unless anyone has anything else, I just want to make sure that we've got Gary Foss signed up to come and talk to us next time, and Mr. Hitchcock.
I'm curious, can we get an update on the lease for larger hangars and GA hangars and the parking structure?
Stand system or whatever. You had a plan.
Haven't heard any, I haven't heard anything.
Well,
We asked for financials and they never materialized.
So do you think that's dead?
If he comes back with funding, we're happy to work with him.
And wasn't there someone else from Albuquerque interested?
There is an Albuquerque group, but they kind of want a joint project with us and want us to bring the tenants with them for their stuff. We're just not there yet.
Thank you.
So the large hangar and numerous small hangars are in abeyance right now. I know everybody was pretty excited about that.
But I did have one more question. Do we have an update or anything on the taxiway going to the Mystic building, getting it open? Okay, so just so everybody's like on the same page, it significantly hampers our ability to move your patients in and out of the city. So currently the aircraft have to sit over here in the general FBO while the crews stay out there. So it prevents the ambulance from being able to bring patients directly to us. And then obviously have the aircraft with the crew to get off the ground. So when we signed the lease on, that was part of it. We were going to move forward with getting that open. So if we can just put it on I understand it happened tomorrow, but if we can make sure it's in this strategic plan somewhere, it would be helpful.
And what's our most recent cost estimate on getting that accomplished, Jennifer?
No, the last price we got was around 300, so the cost of materials and all is probably a little bit more than that. 300,000.
But we don't have any kind of a time frame scheduled for either funding or completion, do we?
Correct.
And so the tenant is wanting to make sure that, if at all possible, he's asking for a time frame, and the sooner the better. That's what the tenant's asking
It's
for.
on the list. We're just trying to get through the grant projects we have now, so we don't lose that funding, but It wasn't budgeted this year.
So budgeted for this fiscal year, which just started in July?
It was not.
I'm sure it could, but that's a management decision.
So, Mr. Mayor, what would need to,
It goes to the county.
what would need to happen to get a budget adjustment for $300,000+?
There's a side conversation,
There-
Mr. Chairman.
There's an indication that there's money left in the grant that the county is managing, but I guess I'd be up to the city to make that request. But that would sure be a way to get that taken care of.
And the sooner we get it taken care of, hopefully the price would not escalate any more than. So, city engineer, what needs to happen to accomplish that?
City manager needs to talk to the county about what they want to do. Because that's the money that's going to the county.
That was the money we got for specific purpose.
Right.
And then we used 3 million of it
For
to
an
build
ascent,
the
right.
water line to hell.
Yeah.
And then we came back and we're finally finishing some of that up.
Do
My
you
only
think
thing
that
is
money's earmarked to the mayor?
That's what it was for. I mean, the governor asked us to fix the other water line over there for the same guy that sold the Ergon, and you know, just that didn't ever work too well either. So,
Well, if there's a mechanism to utilize those funds to assist the tenant
And something for help and stave off human
it's fine.
suffering?
Just the-
My goodness.
The money was gotten for a specific purpose.
I
It's never
understand.
been adopted, never used properly. This is the first time we're gonna use any of it properly. And your name's not on that, getting that money, mine is. And I'm just telling you, that's just the facts. So we need to make sure we get done what, the city gets done what the city said they would do when we started. And the county is an innocent victim in that, and probably so was I. We just had a different mayor that sold things for a bad price. But we'll go ahead and we'll look at that.
So in response to your question, we'll go ahead and we'll look at that.
That's good.
Which is better than it was before you asked the question. Okay. Mr. Spear.
So, Mr. Chairman, I want to make a point about this. When we have a potential tenant that comes to this airfield and wants to lease a piece of property, and they have the anticipation to provide X service or product out of that facility, and they subject to all the stuff they got to go through, they lease that property, then they get told they can't use it for its intended purpose. That's a foul. This kind of stuff can't happen. They've been in that building for how long now? Over a year. And they can't use it for its intended purpose. That's wrong. That's bad on us for not doing our jobs. That's all I'm saying. We can't expect people to come out to this air center and lease a facility and then be told, oh, by the way, you got more stuff we got to get taken care of, and we wouldn't have the money for it, so you can't use it. Well, that's inappropriate.
That's true. But there are a lot of people at the airport that have had a lot of things happen to them that haven't been very nice and very responsive, and it's not all the present
I'm
people's
not blaming
problems.
this. I'm not blaming.
So,
anyone,
I mean,
Mr. Mayor.
let's
I'm
just
saying
be,
We just have.
that's fine.
a business
But
case.
there's a lot of other things that happen out here that have been one of those up yours too, you know?
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's all.
You can't fix the past, you can only move forward with the future.
Well, that's what
I
I'm saying.
think we're
We gotta
doing
learn
that.
from that, what's happened to these guys, and not do that for
That's
any,
the first time I've heard of that.
any.
That's the first time I've heard of that.
It's been addressed. It's been addressed.
I'm just saying, we gotta make sure we don't do that kind of stuff in the future, because it just sets a bad precedent for us.
I agree.
That's what I'm saying.
If we can just make sure it's in the plan, that was.
It's not bad.
Okay, good discussion. Thank you for everybody participating in that. Mr. Mayor.
Are we on public now?
We are on, if we don't have any commissioner comments and commissioners don't have any announcements, then yes, we're on Public participation.
I would just tell you that a week ago Monday, I was out here to pick up my sister-in-law for the airport. The plane coming from Dallas got at 11:30 at night, got about as far as to Lubbock, and then I was following them on Flight Tracker for some reason, and all of a sudden it kept going a little different direction. And before it was over a little bit, the plane was diverted to Albuquerque. They said it was something to do with the terminal. So that's what one of the rumors was. It was something to do with the terminal and the weather station. Now they said whether it's bad weather or not, the winds were probably 2 to 4 miles an hour, and there was nothing wrong outside with the weather. But that plane ended up in Albuquerque. And while it was going there, it said the flight was diverted to Albuquerque. Then it'd be here at 12:25. Then it changed, and it ended up just in Albuquerque after that. And there was never one person from American Airlines or anybody else that came and said, what happened to that plane? Not one. And being the mayor, I was kind of embarrassed. Aren't you the mayor? What happened? Where's the plane? No one was here to tell anybody. The only person that came and was the guy with the 2 flashlights that to tell you to shut off the engine. He walked in the door and he said the plane's been diverted to Albuquerque. That's the only thing that was happening. Never once was there any notice. Then the sister-in-law called and said, well, they were in Albuquerque. And then when you look at that, not one person acknowledged. There were people sitting outside in the car waiting. I'd walk around and tell them all the plane wasn't coming. And they did not get back to Roswell until 4 o'clock the next day, p.m. Wow. And there was never a notice. They were told that when they got to Albuquerque, there wasn't anybody really to help them find rooms or whatever. They were given a number. And it was, it's kind of bad the way it all happened. And then when you look at that and they were told that, well, at 11:19, the plane would leave Albuquerque and be back here, be in Roswell 11:20. Well, that's pretty quick. But anyway, they didn't leave and didn't get here till 4 o'clock. And, for what our people are paying to come into here, I mean, that's pretty high. And then, 2 weeks before that, my brother was going to Albuquerque or going to Los Angeles, and he flew to Roswell to Dallas, and then it was diverted to El Paso. And they stayed in El Paso 12 hours before anything else happened to them. Same thing. Nobody telling them what's going on. And I mean, I don't know, but there needs to be some better level of communication and stuff here. When they blamed it all on the tower, well, that's
Tower closes at 9.
Closes at 9 every night. It don't make it in. What's going on? But either, I don't know who unloads the bags or whatever, but Americans should be somebody here to say, okay, your bags didn't make it. This is where they're going to be. Wasn't a soul. And I'm just telling you, I was embarrassed.
The manager at the counter probably can look up the RF-8100 report on why that airplane was diverted, the real reason. So that would be the first step, would be whoever's running the ticket counter.
And did you reach out to the AA manager that's responsible for us?
I reached out first to Aflac, find out what was going on. What they told me was it was mechanical, instrumental, and when they called for a weather report from here, the pilot decided he was going to do it.
And that, okay.
You know what?
The pilot had a date in Albuquerque.
Could have been. No, but there is no, they're flying off of Albuquerque.
Hang on. So Commissioner Hitchcock.
I don't know, under 125,
John,
that's required.
Is this something that Gary Foss should come to us with, here's options available? Should we provide him this instance?
Well, again, the first level is to go to our manager with American and hold them accountable. Flight's not responsible for that. They're paid to check people in and take care of the luggage. We're not reaching out to the right people.
I did call Dale Norris, but.
Well, at Gary Foss, again, you know, he's at a different level to help negotiate, but American's not providing basic service and feedback to us and our passengers. And we need to let them know that, by gosh. And again, the only explanation I can think of is a commercial flight under Part 125. If there's no weather reporting, that's the only possible reason I can think of that they could have diverted.
So every one of those airplanes as they're flying, there's literally a dispatcher flying with that airplane.
Yeah.
That's on the ground, watching everything that happens. And if he can't, if for some reason they can't get an accurate altimeter, wind, something's going wrong, they divert.
But Artesia's still reporting, and it's close enough.
Maybe, maybe not. They all that stuff goes through the airline. It's not like you guys do on a Part 91 flight. It's a Part 121. Their whole operations controlled through a central location.
You know, I think the issue is how do we let people know here?
Yeah, how do you communicate that out?
All those are, yeah, but how, whatever the reason.
Yeah, how
do we let people know here that the flight's not coming?
Flight should have been here, standing out in the lobby, letting passengers know that the flight wasn't going to be
Obviously,
here.
Flight knew it wasn't coming long before the people in the lobby knew. That's what it sounds to me like.
Well, it sounds like we have a process breakdown where
they're not communicating.
It's not communicating back to here, and I don't know that there's a system in place to do that. There might not even be a system.
It would take pretty much just running the flight.
Flight is a contract station, and American ought to think to do a better job.
It was just kind of bad. But anyway, but whatever happens on any airline that serves here, you should be able to find out what's going on. Somebody
Did you call the airline?
I called Dale Norris. He's the guy that he
Okay, so yeah, his phone call would be to our station manager that's responsible for Roswell.
I told her about it.
Which is Faith downstairs.
Well, yeah.
Managed by Aflac.
But Faith is an Aflac employee. Right?
Over her that she reports. He's probably in Phoenix.
His name is Brad. He's brand new. He was here last week.
There's got to be an American Airlines or an envoy person that's over the station. And
I just don't want it to happen again.
well, it's going to keep those things.
Well, Jennifer, it sounds to me like, based on this conversation, there needs to be some follow-up, either through city manager and you or someone, to get back to a decider at some level in American Airlines. Because it's obvious that,
It's the second time this has occurred.
well,
And I did talk, they were doing training here last week when that happened, and I did talk to them that they were going to implement that as part of their training. Because they understood what was going on, what happened, and.
the mayor just told us about another instance where the flight was diverted to El Paso, and there wasn't any better information on that. So these are incidents that need to get back to a decider at American Airlines. Okay, any additional comments, reference this or reference our meeting today? Any more public comments?
Can we address that at our next meeting, results of that conversation, so we know that problem's been resolved?
Yes, we certainly can. All right, and then immediately post this meeting, we need to be here for a few minutes with the mayor and the attorney and look at constituting a team to work with Gensler. Okay, any other comments or thoughts? Thanks to everyone that was here. We certainly appreciate it. At least we're not we're not tasking Armstrong with anything today. By the way, Armstrong came through for us pretty quickly last go round, so thank you. Thank you for doing that. All right, need to hear a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify so by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Meeting is adjourned. Okay, Kim, if you can get off your phone long. Yeah, I do.